name comes from the idea of small fish, big pond. We are small fish in a big pond. We are in that pond with medium-sized fish and big-sized fish, big, massive companies that have unlimited budgets and resources, and we are trying to make a go of it on our own. And as much as that is, of course, a challenge at times, I think that's the best part of running a small business, is that we really are our brand, and our passion and our personality and our experience and our knowledge, they all lend to building and strengthening that brand. And they also really make us stand out. We are a face behind the brand. We are not a massive board or panel of people that own a massive company. We are it. We are solo entrepreneurs, a lot of us, or we might have a couple of staff depending on what kind of business we do, but we are such a big part of our brand. And that's how that whole name came about for both the branding photography side of my business and this podcast. So why did I start a second brand if I already had a successful one? Well, I'm not tired of wedding and family work. It wasn't that I was bored of what I was doing or that I wanted to move out of weddings and families. I still do a lot of wedding and family photography work, and I want to keep it that way. It's something that I'm really passionate about. I love capturing happy moments for people, and honestly, it's just such a nice thing to be a part of a wedding day or an elopement or a newborn session or a family shoot. I love watching families grow, and I love capturing those happy moments for people. I think it's so important to document memories. Photos have always been big for me. If you could see the room that I'm in right now, I'm actually recording this in my bedroom because it's the quietest room in the house. And there must be about 20 or 25 framed pictures in here. I've got pictures of me and my sister when we were little, pictures of my mum and dad, grandparents, my own family, of course, my daughter, my dog, our travels. I love having photos out, and I love that I'll be able to pass them along to my daughter one day. So it's certainly not for lack of passion for my first brand that I decided to start a second one. But I was finding that I was really missing the marketing and communication side of things. I've been out of it for a few years, and of course I'm using a lot of those skills to market my own business. But I was really missing the challenge of trying to build a brand or build awareness for an organization. And working with smaller organizations and creatives is something that I enjoyed so much, and I'd really been missing it. So I was trying to think of a way that I could combine my marketing and communications background with my photography skills, and this is what I came up with: a brand photography business. So what I do at Small Fish Photo Co. is two-sided. On the one side of it, I do brand photography for small businesses. So I don't do big ad campaigns. I don't work with big companies. I work with small creative businesses and creative freelancers to create unique photos that help them stand out online. So it's so important now, as we know, with social media and things like that, to have strong visual representation online. And I love working with small businesses to find out what they're all about, who is behind them, and how we can best show off what makes them unique. So that's the one side of my business. And the other side is photography training and workshops. So being a small business owner myself, I know that we only have a limited budget and limited resources to keep our businesses running smoothly and to help our businesses grow. And as much as I would love it if you could, most small businesses cannot afford to hire a professional photographer every time they need new photos for their business. I mean, a lot of us are posting daily or at least several times a week online. There's no way that small businesses have a budget to hire a photographer to create that many photos for them. So I offer workshops, one-to-one training, and also a free photography group, which you might have seen if you follow my Small Fish Photo Co. page. These are all things that I offer to help small business owners to improve their own photography skills. I do workshops on things like taking better photos with your phone, on teaching somebody how to use a DSLR camera if they feel inclined to buy one or maybe have one at home that they've never learned how to use properly. I talk about things like editing, taking better photos of products. So basically anything across the spectrum of taking photos for your business, I do training on it. And that's been really, really enjoyable for me because I feel like I'm giving back a little bit. I'm sharing experience. I'm sharing my knowledge and my passion for identifying what makes businesses unique. And it's great to see the skill set grow in so many people, especially in my brand photography group. I'm seeing people will post a before and after, or even the post that happened right when I started that group, and go a few weeks in, and the improvement that I'm already seeing is amazing. So that is the two sides of my brand photography business. I get asked quite often why I offer the training side of things. I think a lot of people feel that I'm giving away secrets and I'm taking away work for myself, but I don't think that's the case. I think that knowledge is out there, and if people are really committed to learn and improve their photography skills, they'll find that knowledge somewhere, whether it's from me or elsewhere. It's something that I really feel passionate about doing, giving that experience out and helping small business owners gain their skill set. And I've also found that a lot of people that do a workshop with me or book me for some one-to-one training do end up coming back to me when they're looking for some brand photos, some updated headshots, or some photos of a new product for a launch or something like that. And they do think of me first because I've given them that knowledge and I've offered that training perspective to them as well. I think too, if there's one thing this pandemic has shown us, it's that identifying what your community needs rather than telling them what they need or pushing sales at them is so important, especially in the small business realm. So of course things are very different in the corporate community, but things are done on a much different scale with small businesses. And because most of us have to wear so many hats, we don't just have one job title. We run the day-to-day of our business, but we are also the admin person. We are also the accountant. We do the marketing. We have to wear so many hats in order to run our businesses. And there's always a need to gain skills in these other areas. And I think being able to offer that education side of things along with your professional skill set of actually doing that activity or offering that service just adds another dimension to your business. And that's something that's really helped me through this difficult time. It's also given me a lot of worth. So I think for most of us, it's great to feel needed. And while I, of course, see a ton of value in being able to offer professional photography services to my clients, it's been great to be able to offer them that education and that training when some of them have a little bit of extra time to do it. Some of them don't have the time, but they also don't have a budget to hire a professional. So they're trying their best to make time to improve their skill set right now. And it feels good to be able to help in that way. So now on to the podcast side of things. I spoke to you a little bit at the beginning of this episode about how that idea came to me, and why I think it's so important to create a small business podcast. Aside from being able to put my journalism skills back to good use, I think the opportunity to share stories, to inspire and to motivate other small business owners, and to help bring more of us together is such an important thing, and it's something I feel really, really passionate about. I love the idea of starting discussions on topics, whether they are quite current and topical, or are topics that can be applied to your business at any point in time or at any stage in your business journey. I think having these open discussions really, really help us as small business owners. I have to give a shout out here to Abby and the Mind Your Business podcast. I don't know if you listen to Abby's podcast already, but if you don't, you need to get on it. Abby's podcast is what got me listening to business podcasts. She shares stories of female entrepreneurs in Scotland, mostly female, but I think she's had a few male guests on there as well. And hearing other people's stories and learning a little bit about their business journey is so helpful, because it makes you realize that you're not alone in feeling the way that you do, in dealing with the situation that's currently in front of you. It's just so helpful to feel like somebody else gets it. And I think I'm aiming to do the same with my podcast, doing things a little bit differently, of course, because Abby does such a fab job of hers. We don't need a second podcast that just copies her idea. But I wanted to do something that would allow me to share stories, but also to start discussions on topics that many of us either are currently struggling with or maybe struggling with in the future or have struggled with in the past. And I think being open about our experiences, the lessons that we learned, and sharing some new ideas is always helpful, especially as sole traders who work from home, as is the case for a lot of us. I find it can be quite lonely. I'm quite a friendly, outgoing person. I always had quite personal jobs, I guess. I always worked with other people in a setting where I was speaking to people all day, and I find it can be quite lonely working on my own. So having a podcast to keep me company and hearing the voice of another small business owner is always really comforting, especially on those days where I'm feeling a bit lonely. So I think that about wraps it up. You're probably quite tired of hearing my voice. I've spoken for much longer than I thought I would. So sorry about that. If you are still listening, thanks for sticking with this until the end. I'm just going to share a couple of last things with you here. So at the end of every podcast episode, I am going to ask our guest a very important question. And that is, what is the one thing that you wish you knew before you started your business? Or in other words, what is the one thing that you learned the hard way? And there are definitely a handful of these for me. I have learned a lot through trial and error, but I will say that I think that's the best way to learn. I mean, you need to make mistakes and put yourself out there and just go for it if you're ever going to progress. So if I had to pick just one thing that I wish I knew before I started, I think it would be not to compare myself to other people. This is something that I think loads of us struggle with because we all look up to businesses that are maybe in our industry or related to our industry and are really well established, and we really love what they're doing and the way that they're doing things. And you look at them and they're so much further ahead than where you are. And it's really hard not to compare yourself to that and compare yourself and your journey to theirs. And even if it's not people that are further ahead, maybe it's your competition, maybe it's somebody else doing similar things to you and you can see them trying something different, or maybe they look really busy, whether they actually are that busy or they're just trying to make it look that way online. That's another topic. But I think comparing ourselves to other people is just a recipe for unhappiness. It's true in personal life, and it's especially true in business. The only person that we should compare ourselves to is us. If I look at where my business was when I first moved over to Scotland back in 2015, where it was in 2018 when I was just back from maternity leave and trying to make a go at this full time, and now to where it is today, the progress is huge. And if I compare me now to me back then, all I see is growth and improvement and lessons learned. And that's really the only thing that matters. So if I could go back to the start, I would have told myself right from the beginning, stop worrying about what everybody else is doing, where they are on their journey, and how quickly I'm progressing compared to them. And instead just look at my own development and the development of my business. And that is a pretty good way to feel proud of yourself. So the last thing I'm going to tell you today is where you can find me online. So if you want to take a peek at my wedding and family photography work, I'm at Rhiannon Neal on both Facebook and Instagram, and my website is rhiannonneal.com. And if you are interested in my brand photography work and my photography workshops and training, you can find me at Small Fish Photo Co. on Instagram and Facebook, and it's smallfishglasgow.co.uk if you want to check out the website. But I will put all of those links in the show notes for today's episode, and I think I'm going to leave it there. So thank you so much for joining me for my first ever episode. Like I said, this is the only solo episode I'll be doing. I promise the next time you'll have somebody else's perspective in here as well. It won't just be me droning on for almost 45 minutes. And I hope you will join me for next week's episode. Thanks so much for listening.